I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, December the 29th, 2014. A final draft of the Palestinian statehood resolution was planned to be submitted to the United Nations Security Council today. Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat said last night that there were 8 amendments that had been added to the original draft, which was presented earlier this month. According to Reuters, one of the changes states that East Jerusalem will be the capital of Palestine, as opposed to the original bid, which had called for Jerusalem to be the shared capital of Israel and a Palestinian state. Like the original, the draft called for a deadline of 12 months for peace negotiations with Israel and Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank by the end of 2017. Israel has maintained that it supports peace talks but rejects such imposed timelines. Israel has said that this type of forced withdrawal will only lead to a Hamas takeover in the West Bank. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his cabinet meeting yesterday, saying, "We will continue to vigorously rebuff attempts to force terms on us that would endanger our security and our future." Netanyahu reiterated this during a meeting today with visiting Indiana Governor Mike Pence.
We expect the entire international community, at least the responsible members of that community, to oppose vigorously this UN diktat, this UN Security Council resolution, because what we need always is direct negotiations and not imposed conditions.
And U.S. Senator Lindsey visited Israel this weekend and met with Netanyahu in Jerusalem on Saturday night. The two discussed issues of concern, including the Palestinian bid at the UN. Graham told Netanyahu that Congress would not support such dictates by the United Nations.
Any effort by the French, the Jordanians, or anyone to avoid direct negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians over the peace process, anyone who tries to take this to the UN Security Council, there will be a violent backlash by the Congress that could include suspending funding to the United Nations. We will not sit back and allow the United Nations to take over the peace process.
A Palestinian teen who was throwing rocks at Israeli vehicles was shot and killed today during clashes with Israeli security forces in the West Bank. The incident occurred when an IDF unit tried to stop several Palestinians who were throwing large rocks at Israeli cars in the northern West Bank, about 30 miles north of Jerusalem. In the confrontation that ensued, one of them was shot by IDF forces and later died of his injuries. He was identified as 16-year-old Imam Jamil a-Safir from the Arab village of Baita, south of Nablus. The IDF spokesman's office said the soldiers first fired warning shots, which were ignored, and they were investigating the incident. And in a separate incident, a firebomb was thrown at an Israeli vehicle this past Thursday, severely burning 11-year-old Israeli Ayala Shapira and lightly injuring her father. That happened near Ma'ale Shomron in the West Bank. Shapira remains in serious condition at the Sheba Medical Center at Tel HaShomer Hospital, and several Palestinians were arrested over the weekend in the attack. A Jewish cemetery in Greece was vandalized last week by neo-Nazis. Swastikas and the words 6 million more were spray painted on the gates of the historic graveyard in Larissa in central Greece. According to the Greek Reporter, the vandals also left their signature, the skinheads of Greece. The local Jewish community was outraged and shocked at the incident and called for the perpetrators to be brought to justice. The Greek government condemned the incident as well. Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Evangelos Venizelos called it an unacceptable and incomprehensible criminal act. The World Jewish Congress released a statement from the umbrella organization for the Jewish communities of Greece, expressing their condemnation and indignation over the incident. It said the desecration of a cemetery, which is a holy place for all religions, is not only an insult to the memory of our dead brothers, but also an insult to the culture of our country and the city of Larissa. Chairman of the executive of the Jewish Agency for Israel, Natan Sharansky, will participate in a Limud conference taking place this week at the University of Warwick in Great Britain. Sharansky will be appearing as part of a joint panel with Palestinian human rights activist Bassem and South African anti-apartheid campaigner Benjamin Pogrund. That takes place tomorrow. The panel is called "Can Democracy and Peace Go Hand in Hand?" Sharansky will also be speaking on his own. The annual Limud conference brings together several thousand from across the globe for 5 days of study and inspiration on topics of Jewish relevance. An Israeli opera singer sang in front of hundreds of thousands of people Thursday at a Christmas Mass led by Pope Francis at the Vatican. 35-year-old soprano Chen Rice sang Mozart's Et Incarnatus Est, a piece chosen by the Pope at the Mass held in the Vatican's St. Peter's Basilica. Rice met briefly with the Pope beforehand, who thanked her for coming to sing. And turning now to our programming for tonight, Monday, December the 29th. At 8 tonight, Rabbi Daniel Gordis of the Shalem College talks about the Israeli future from a program of the American Jewish Committee. And then at 9 o'clock, Mark Golub sits down with president of the Posen Foundation, Felix Posen, to talk about his sponsoring of a massive 10-volume anthology of Jewish civilization and culture. That's tonight on JBS and jbstv.org. And that's the JBS News Update from Monday, December the 29th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.